in part of the town where it's pretty much just kind of a stone documentary of the events of the Age of the Machine. And you have in the center the fabrication machine as a stone sculpture. But the fabrication machine is not coming back. Something else is controlling the machines, and the machines have started to... They've kind of been pushed back. They really are the minority. They are hidden very well, so you don't see as many machines. The chimeras, however, you see them very frequently, and you see them more often.
Machines will probably come into play a bit later on, I'd say, in the comic book.
Yeah, because, I mean, the first machine that you guys come across is Somnambulist, which is actually considered as the daddy's seamstress, which... There's a reason it's called the daddy seamstress, and it's not because it's a guy. There's a reason, you will find out soon enough. If you guys dig hard enough in my gallery, you might actually find it. But,
God, that thing freaked me out so bad.
Oh, it was amazing.
I had to drive that night. I went out
and it comes into play.
I heard a noise, and I flipped the hell
Oh,
out.
God, she did. It was hilarious. Just all the sounds that we had for it. But the chimeras are at a point where they want to wipe out the machines. Once they wipe out the machines, yeah, we'll wipe out the humans, we'll take all the source, and then, you know, we'll kind of feed off of each other.
Or, you know.
But the chimeras...
Cattle the humans.
Yeah.
One of the two. Depends on who's in control in the end.
Yeah. Now, the chimeras, they're very flexible. They've taken over the air, they've taken over the ground, they've taken over underneath the ground, and they're also in the sea. We haven't brought into anything regarding the sea, but once you guys see those, you might as well shit your pants and just go home. And keep your lights on. Keep your lights on and stay away from the aquariums. That's all I'm going to say. But, yeah, I mean, in general, the chimeras are kind of like, I guess, zombie machines.
Now, while the chimeras are highly visible in the world of RagNBone, in the comic, they're actually not a major... They're
not a major concern.
But they're not a major concern among humans, because to the majority of the world, the chimeras, they generally tend to stick to their holes, and they're more focused on hunting down the machines than hunting down us at this point in time.
And the mines, even though they're very large mines, they're in very dead areas of the world. I actually have a map where I've planted out all the dead spots, all the mines where the chimeras are.
Including about half of the United States.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, pretty much the entire western side of the United States is
everything, kind of like everything past the Mississippi.
Yeah, pretty much.
The East Coast is still around.
Like California.
Nothing against you West Coasters or anything.
Like California, there was a giant shift in the continental plates. And California, you know, all those rumors of California splitting off from the states. It really does split off. And California, it's still there, but... the majority of it has turned into an insane mine. It's one of the largest mines. And you just can't really get around that area because chances are you'll get shot down before you do. It's kind of like the rumors of the Bermuda Triangle. Nobody knows what the hell's doing. But the chimeras, people know they existed for the Third War. People know they exist. People stay away from where the Border Patrol keeps the emptiness out of sight, in short. Nobody kind of wants to go past that point.
There's one you mentioned, but it was never. It hasn't really come into play in the RP. But you've mentioned them being out there. Are the dogs, the dogs in the wilderness that are kind of like mutated and shit?
Oh yeah, I mean with the emptiness, we kind of figured, you know, everything's not always going to be dead. You know, stuff from the living, like stray dogs and cats, and you know, just random shit trying to take over the emptiness again. And just from
nature, just isn't.
They're not kind.
Nature isn't getting back most of what has been taken so far. It's
more so mutating.
It's trying, but it's failing.
But, I mean, between the chemicals that are being extracted from the arsenics, because there are chemicals involved that kind of force the soul out, it's not entirely an alchemic reaction.
Not for those guys, anyway.
No.
For the 9 group.
For the 9 group, yes.
And to make homunculi, it's different. But the way they're being extracted for those guys is a little bit different.
In order to keep the arsenics running, the Wellingtons running even. And... you hear the chimeras are kind of like,
I guess, mention all the biological warfare that's been taking place against them, trying to kill them out in the first place by humans.
Exactly. Now the chimeras, I guess you could think of them as like I guess, a species you would see of the cryptozoology sites. You know how there's plenty of evidence to prove that, hey, there might be something out there, but nobody really believes anybody who's seen it, and normally the people who have seen it are dead.
And machines are to a certain extent the same thing. I mean, we know they happened.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
know that there's occasionally the one rogue rowing machine, but most of the ones that people have heard about are from 10, 20 years ago. And, you know...
And no one... And most of the machines that kind of are left are either hiding, or the ones that are left are just really kind of dumb.
In the RP, I don't know if this is going to actually stay in the comic or not, but I know that I mentioned the fact that there had been a sighting about 10 years ago in the town.
Yeah,
it was a small one.
It was a very small sighting. There's sightings.
It was this small, like... It was a machine, though. It wasn't a chimera. It was a machine and it had human bones incorporated, but it had a skull for a head. With
whatever the song is, I
knives, weird shit going on. But yeah. So it's one of these things where 10 or 20 years ago, maybe you would have seen these guys around, but
now
people are kind of falling into the idea that maybe they're dying out, maybe they're dying off, maybe they're disappearing, maybe they're just rusting and falling apart. Who knows?
Maybe the Holocaust totally happened, but guess what? It really didn't happen. You got some of those people. So there are some people out there who think the Earth is still flat. So I mean, it's kind of one of those kind of myth setups. But with another thing with the chimeras is that they, like I said, they are very smart. So they kind of know when, or they could easily take over town with or without the Oxford.
Yeah,
but
they
choose to stay back, and there's a particular reason. Now, how we came up with the concept in the first place, that's just me. That's kind of how my mind works. I have always found it laughable how people, when they create species, they kind of just mesh two characters together, like a tiger and a giraffe or something. And it was just kind of more so...
To giraffe.
Yeah, and it's really funny considering how squeamish I am. The first chimera that I created was the Alchemist and the Thurgus. Giraffers.
Innocently grazing in trees, and then his head sticks down, snatches your head off. Giraffe.
Now you gotta draw that. Now you gotta draw that.
Yeah, I should.
But anyway, the first two chimeras I created. The first two chimeras I created were the Alchemist and the Thurgus. And it was purely just kind of running off of the fact that I love Cerberus and I love the concept of the sins. And one of the sins, I believe it's gluttony.
Gluttony with the blood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gluttony. Okay, now, you have to understand, I will tell you. I will tell you up front, we do encounter the chimera in an antique warehouse. And the reason is because when we're in there... No, we're not going to tell you why we go in there.
No. You gotta understand. We're antique stealers in RagNBone. So God only knows when this is going to happen because there's a lot of antique warehouses in RagNBone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, but yeah. There's an antique warehouse, and this is kind of those warehouses that are set up where...
You're going to see a needle in Bradbury's thing, or you're going to see, you're going to see... It's like seeing ropes in the ceiling. I mean... What? It's like saying, oh, you're gonna see...
spit all over me. Anyway.
It's like saying you're gonna see one particular rope in Lewis's rafters. And
that's it. But anyway,
totally
this warehouse is one of those warehouses where, it was kind of set up very quickly. It's not meant to be a permanent, pretty little residence. But... when we're in there, now remember how I said how large these guys are. These guys are standing very still. It's both the Alchemist and the Thurgus, and when you look at them, it's kind of like a really macabre statue. They don't move, they're not breathing, so you're just looking at this, and you can tell from the smell that they definitely used some weird-ass shit in making this thing.
Either someone taxidermied this wrong, or I was not right!
But anyway, with this, there's a reason we run into the warehouse in the first place, but I won't tell you about that.
But that's just kind of lulls.
It's lulls worthy, and then it turns into hell on wheels.
But amazing.
The Alchemist in particular has gluttony, as each of the heads have their own kind of mind, but there's one head that kind of controls the rest. And the gluttony is in charge of the Alchemist, if I remember correctly. And gluttony, his portrayal, he's got vials that are jammed into his muzzle by needles that are filled with blood, and these tubes are coming out of his nose and feeding into these vials, and his mouth is just kind of seeping this blood. And so we see it and we're like, this can't be real. This is like paint or something. But it constantly seeps this through his head. And so it's really odd how I come up with this shit, because I'm so squeamish. I won't watch Repo. I kept looking away. I kept looking away for the really stupidest shit. Like,
you can't watch Sweeney Todd.
I can't watch Sweeney Todd.
For
the action with all the neck slitting and all that, just the action of it.
Eye gouging.
Yeah, anything like that. Needles.
Being peeled off like skin. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that I'm really squeamish about. But when I'm creating it, I want to see it.
I'm squeamish about eye gouging, and I'm squeamish about some things, but like she takes.
I take it very seriously.
I've been married to a horror movie fanatic for the past couple of years, so I've gotten a bit of a tolerance. I can't. Has none.
I have no tolerance. I used to have tons of tolerance. I used to like just splatter blood all across the pictures and shit. Not real blood, but blood. It's just really odd that I'm the one to create these things, and I just love the concept of blood just pouring out of these vials constantly on this guy. And like another one has a couple 100 eyes, and some of them are hanging out and all this shit. And I can't stand that when I'm watching a horror movie. It has to be what I'm creating. I can't stand anything else. But
Everybody is stealing a necklace off of your desk.
Yes, she is. But
this is
I was pretty much the one who came up with this. In terms of their relationship to the stitchpunks, they're extra souls to the chimaeras. That's really all that matters.
They don't really see them as being a threat
any
don't
difference.
Really see them as being any different from humans, really.
They're another source for a soul or another body.
They just don't have flesh on them.
Yeah.
They're humans with no flesh, so hey, a little bit easier to take care of.
Oh yeah. But I mean, just in general, that's pretty much how the chimaeras are set up.
She handles all the horrifying, sickening,
I do.
Scary
like I
things.
said, I dreamt about one being crucified. I was pretty much the one for Isaac's entire backstory.
Not entirely.
Not
I
entirely,
already
but
knew he was going to be scary and horrible.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
I mean, I was the one who kind of put
you were the
that
one
idea.
that pushed it the extra level to make it a little more terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah.
I usually end up with the characters that are psychologically damaging. Or psychologically damaged.
Yeah, I mean, because I hate today's concept of horror. Every day, people's idea of horror is blood, gore, and all this.
Gore, and jump scares.
Horror.
Okay.
Jump scares.
You want to piss me off anymore in a
God,
fucking movie.
Your face!
No, it pisses me off.
Contorted in rage.
It pisses me off. The Messengers. Went and saw the fucking Messengers. I went and saw... There was another movie that was like this, where... It has this build-up for a really good, awesome story, and it has some really creepy shit in it. But then, when you start watching it, every 5 minutes it's a jump scare. It's a jump scare. Something hits a window, or something makes a loud noise, or something. That's not why a movie should be scary. Bitch, I will smack you. That's not why a movie should be scary. That's not why a story should be scary. It should be scary because it's genuinely goddamn horrifying.
Yeah, now...
It should really bother you on some basic level. That's the way I see it anyway.
Horror, to me, is when you take something... and with a little bit of artistic license, you kind of push it beyond that edge where it's just supernatural, but it's something that can very plausibly happen in certain circumstances. Like in The Ring, my favorite scene in the entire movie is when they're on the ship and the horse gets out of its stable and bolts towards the end of the ship. And I don't know how many people have seen The Ring or really care about spoilers.
At this point, is it going to be a goddamn spoiler?
Yeah.
For how long?
Exactly. But this horse pretty much falls over the side of the ship, and the only thing you see is the water behind it and turning red. The horse pretty much gets chopped up by the propellers. And I was like, it's on the edge of supernatural. It's not something you would see on an ordinary day-to-day basis, but it's very friggin' possible. And that is what I think horror needs to be redefined as, because it's not this gore and shit. Now, Saw, granted, yeah, okay, Saw was pretty cool, but really, there's too little of a population, I guess, that has that kind of person that's willing to do all that kind of shit.
To me, Saw and movies like Saw and Final Destination, they stop being horrifying after a while and come down to the point of you want to see what in Final Destination, what Rube Goldberg machine they're going to come up with next to take some guy's head off, or in saw what morbid choice someone is going to have to make.